Hello everyone and welcome back to this next episode in this inventory series. This episode we'll be going over basically how to make our own custom factory, how to make our own asset types, and basically just to create our own custom assets that we can instantiate within the content browser, so we're not relying on actors or components. We can add direct object references to our inventory instead, which as we've discussed in previous episodes is a lot better than relying on actors, which could be loaded in or out of memory and cause a wide range of different issues. So as a quick prerequisite for this, if you're not using Rider, I'd highly recommend picking either one of these module tools here. There are a few more on the marketplace, but from what I can tell, these two are the ones that I use predominantly as well. I mainly use this one. They're just very simple tools that will add modules to your project. If we go to our Rider solution here, I've just quickly regenerated my project files. The more observant amongst you may have already noticed that this tutorial has taken place quite a few days after the rest of the series. The reason being is, well, I forgot to do this episode the first time round, so I'm having to quickly, well, I've got to record it the first time. So let's get into it. So we're just waiting for this to load up, and then I can show you how I would add modules into my Rider project. So go to plugins, source, and just right click on source, go to add, and you should see here it's grayed out at the moment because it's still loading the project up, but I would normally click new Unreal module. Now I can't really use these module generators with my current Unreal instance. The reason being, I am running the source build, which means that the launcher doesn't recognize it, and if the launcher doesn't recognize the engine version I'm using, it won't allow me to add stuff to it. Well, this means that I'm a bit more reliant on my own plugins and stuff, which is nice. I like being something like that. So let's go to add new Unreal module, and I'm just going to add in a module called inventory editor. Make this an editor type, and loading phase is fine as default. Click OK. Now we need to go into the build.cs for this, and we need to add in two new things. The first one being Unreal Ed, and the other thing is asset tools. And as Copilot so thankfully suggesting to me, we also need to add in our inventory system here, or rather inventory plugin as it should say. And there we go. So as I mentioned, I've already done this part before, so there may be some things that are small discrepancies. I'll try to address them as much as I can. So the first one being is I've already added in my inventory object base here, which is I'll show you how to do this really quickly. I can't really delete it because there's stuff in the project that relies on it, unfortunately. If we go to our inventory editor, and we actually need to add in another file here, so just real quick, just go to add file, and I'm going to add one in as asset type actions / inventory asset type action .h, and let's pragma once. And we need to add in include core minimal, and we need to include asset type actions _ base, and we need to also include, just really quickly, inventory asset type actions.generated.h. Actually no, we don't need, do we need generated.h? I'm going to go with that for now. Then we just need a normal class, which is going to be an F inventory action space, inheriting from public asset type action space, and we need a few members, so generate missing members here, and it should be the 4 that we need, which is good. And let's just really quickly define these. And we also need a constructor as well, which is going to come in very handy later on. So we need, which includes an E asset type categories for the type that we want to pass in. Let's make this private. E asset type categories. which is going to be inventory asset category. Does this not have a built-in one for that? I don't believe it does, but I'm just double checking. I don't think it does. I can't see it anywhere. That's unfortunate. Okay, so get categories that this is going to return the type that we've got here. Get type color. I'm going to just return white for now. Get supported class, and this is where it's necessary that we already define our inventory object base. And we've included it there. It's in the build.cs. Rider's just complaining at me for no reason, apparently. And get name, we're just going to return inv text inventory object. And now if we build and run this, yeah, I assume that you guys know how to make your own objects, but if not, for this bit, for the time being, you could just forward declare this. I'm fairly sure you can just inventory object base like that, and that should work. If you haven't created, actually no, it wouldn't work because this is a static class. Then if it's not different, oh no, you'll have to make it. Okay, well that's loading up. Let's create a new private here, and we need a t shared pointer. That's going to take in an f asset type, sorry, f inventory asset type actions, and it needs to include the header file with this. You can't forward declare it. I've run into problems with that before. So we've got private there, and now if we go to our startup module, we need inventory type asset type actions, and we're going to make shared. There's probably not a massive difference in between make shared and make shareable, from what I understand, but it's just good to have it like this. And we're going to pass in item category misc. So that's going to go in the miscellaneous category. If we go to our project content browser and right click, it'll go in here somewhere. For the time being, well, we will register our own asset type category in a bit. So if you don't know how to create your own object, just go to new C++ class or classes, object, click next, and set it all up here. Once it loads up, if we go back to here, inherit from the inventory item interface that we made last time, and implement all the functions that we discussed there. So I've got, actually I don't know if this is going to come out after or before when we made some changes here. So the inventory item interface, I believe I made some changes in between last time and this episode. So I believe it got up to here. So now this is the stuff for the UI that I'm going to be including in the addendum series. I am planning on including it, just not with this main series. This main series was more about getting a foundational plugin in place so that you guys can take it and apply it to any games that you want. So we got the item name, description, and the icon. Then go back to the inventory object base and just make sure you have some new properties here that match up to those in the interface. If we click on one of these functions here, you just return the relevant information. I'm trying to linger on each page as much as I can so you guys have the opportunity to pause it and copy it down if you need it. So let's go back to our inventory editor and let me have a quick look at what the next step is. Okay, so we need f asset tools module, and yep, and we need to get the module and then get it again for some reason. Oh sorry, get module. When I read that, it literally just read get and then yeah, again. Okay, so register asset type actions. That's that. Perfect. And then on shutdown, we should probably tidy up after ourselves a little bit. So we need to check if the if the asset tool module is still loaded, and if it is, then we just register the asset type actions there like that. Okay, perfect. So the next step is creating the factory. So we go to Tools, New C++ class, and just type in factory. Now the first one's going to be an active factory, but we don't want that one. We want to come down here to just a base factory here. Click Next and type in inventory object factory. Make sure it goes in the editor plugin, because it will cause a packaging error if you try to put in anything outside of an editor module. So just put that in factory. Spell it correctly. There we go. Factories. Right. So if we go to our header file here, go to public, and we need a constructor and a create new. Now let's have a look at the other functions that we've got available to us once this loads up. While that's doing that, there we go. Okay, let's go here and generate overriding members. Let's have a look down at the bottom here to see what we've got access to. So we have get formats, this is automatic import, configure properties, we need that one. We also need give it a second, it usually loads up the description after a few seconds, but nope, okay. Okay, let's just create configure properties as well, and let's generate the definitions for all of them. Come on. Okay, maybe just these top two for now. Really? Come on. There we go. Okay, so here we need to add supported class equal to the inventory object base that we have previously, and let's make sure to include this here. So include there we go, objects / inventory object base. We also need to set b create new equal to true, and we need to say edit after true equals edit after new is equal to true as well. And I'm fairly sure there's another one that we need. No, not on this one. Okay. Create new is literally just going to return a new object using the inventory object base with the in parent and the class that we've selected with the name and the flags of that object. And configure properties, well, we need something else for that. I'm just having a quick look here at my notes. Okay, so we need also a is it private? Yeah, let's make it private for the time being. We can always change it later. It needs to be a U property, which is edit newer, and it's going to hold a T subclass of inventory object class. Okay, and now underneath here we need another class which we're going to call class item object viewer filter, which is going to be a public class viewer filter. And we need just a few things in here. We need a t set of const view class pointers, which is going to be allowed children of classes. And we need a an e class flags, which is going to be disallowed class flags. Now these are our two main ways of deciding which children or which objects that are going to inherit from inventory object base, which one are they going to appear when we go to select our new object. So we just need to override two more functions in here. We need a function to say if the class is allowed, and we just need to check if the in class is a child of the static class here and it doesn't have any of the disallowed class flags, then we return true. And if we iterate through the allowed children classes, we can actually get rid of this, and we can just say return in filter functs if child in class of classes set, and just pass in the allowed children of classes and the in class here. Perfect. Okay, let me just double check that matches what I've got here. We just need to check that it returns if it passed. Now, similar thing at the bottom here, virtual boolean is an unloaded class allowed, and we just literally check for the same stuff. If it's the child of the static class of the inventory object base, and if it doesn't have any of the disallowed class flags, then we return true. And then if it doesn't do any of that, then we return if it's in the child of allowed children classes. And yeah, that's basically it for here. Why is this companion now? Should have user defined constructor. Okay, generate constructor then, and there we go, I believe. Let's make another one just because I'm not entirely sure. There we go. We don't need the first one, we just need the bottom one. Or we could, instead of just making a constructor like that, we could just set this equal to, well, that. We're going to look for classes that are abstract, or if they are depreciated, or if there's a newer version exists. If any class that we've come across has any of those flags, then it will be rejected in these functions here. And it will be relying on if it's explicitly allowed in the allowed children of classes function. So let's go to our create new object, and now we need to check, first things first, if our inventory object class, if this is valid. Not valid, valid. If it is, then we return new object with that object class that we've got. And then we need to check here. Yeah, we need to check if the class we've got is a child of new inventory object base, and get the static class here. And just add the new thing here to say must be a child of that, so we know why we crashed out. So let's go to our final piece of the puzzle here, which is the configure properties. Now, this is where it gets kind of bog standard across a few different, a few different implementations of this. This is quite constant. But for now, let's quickly rerun this and test to make sure that what we've got currently works. So what I'm expecting is when we go to our object class here, when we create a new inventory object, it's literally just going to create a blank new inventory object base. But since this is abstract, it should not work. That's what I'm expecting. While it's running, we could get us started on this. So let's get rid of the return value here. We need to add an inventory object class. Is going to be equal to a null pointer. Oh, yeah, I didn't think it needed to generate .h. So basically, anything that does not inherit from U object does not need a generator.h as a general rule. And if we go to here, this just inherits from iType actions, which I believe is not an interface, and yeah, so it does not need the generator.h file there. Let's just make the configure properties. So we need to make this equal to a null pointer, and now we need to set up our class viewer. So f class viewer viewer module. It's going to be a reference to the load module checked, and then we need to initialize some options here. And the options, you've got a few here. We've got either a class browser, class picker. Let's go with class picker. We need a display mode. I'm going to go with the tree view, just because I like it better. But you also have a list view as well. If you look here, and you got a default view here, which means it will pick for you. I'm going to go with tree view. And we also have one last thing, which, let's have a look at the options that we have available to us. So we have class filter, filters, the display mode, the property handles, additional referencing assets, and a bunch of booleans here. So let's have a look through, see if there's anything else that you want to experiment with. Show object root class. Nah, let's not deal with anything else. Okay, so underneath this, we now need a t-shared pointer. We're just going to take in our filter and make a new shared one. We need to set the class filter equal to, well, the filter that we just made there. Let's make this filter const actually. And let's not, rather than setting it here, we need to add, is it add? Yeah, it's setting it. Why is it complaining then? Okay, class filters dot add unique rather. And this can't be const now, can it? No viable option. Why? T-shared oh. Now this can be const. Okay, there's a slight difference between a shared pointer and a shared reference. A shared reference has to point to an object and it cannot be null. So if you, I assume that's why it needs a shared reference, because, well, it needs to assume that it's pointing to a valid object or reference to something, I'm guessing there. Okay, so after we add that to our filters, now we need to set our disallowed and allowed stuff up. So allowed children of classes, and members inaccessible. Oh yeah, because this defaults to private, doesn't it? Make this public. And we can add in our inventory object base there. But if this is abstract, then we don't actually want this. So let's get rid of that. Disallowed children class flags is going to equal to those things there. Even though they're in the constructor, it's just good to explicitly say, like, this is what we want here. Okay, time to set up the actual widget itself. So let's make it const f text, which is going to be our title. I'm going to set that equal to a big inventory object class. A description to say choose the class to use for the inventory object. I know, very creative. We need a u class pointer for the chosen class, and we just need a const boolean to say that we pressed OK on our dialog picker here. Just don't forget to include the picker dialog there. And why is it? Oh yeah, it doesn't take in the description. My mistake. It takes in the title, the options, the chosen class as a reference, and the asset type that we want to select from, and then we just remember to set, if we press OK, then we set our inventory object class equal to the chosen class, and then return if we pressed OK. Okay, that was an awful lot of talking there. Let's run this now and see what we got. Remember to get this out. Okay, so we got an error. Unresolved public asset type actions, reference public management. We did not include this here. By mistake. Include asset type actions underscore inventory asset type actions there. And do we need to include it here, or did we forward declare it? We included it here. Why is it complaining about me? I don't know. Not debug. Don't stop. Right. Removal can be a bit weird sometimes. And it's still complaining. Okay, so I believe I've managed to find the source of the problem. That was embarrassingly long. It was actually because I forgot to generate the definition for the constructor, and with that inline constructor here, with the in asset category here, and setting the asset category equal to the in asset category here. If you go back to our editor, and I will just well, set everything back up. So it's going to be make shareable. Oh, sorry, make shared with F asset type actions, and we're going to be passing in our miscellaneous. Let's uncomment everything else, and let's pray that this works. I think I may have added asset tools here as well, but that's good. We now run this. I was so confused there, like the code looked identical to what I had in my notes. I don't know. It's been a long day of editing until I realised that this episode was missing. Okay, so if we go to our content drawer now, and right click, if we go to our miscellaneous, we should now have our inventory object here. If we click on this, we now have our pig inventory object class. And if we go to our new blueprint here, which is just a blueprint class that I created based off of our object base, click select, and we can now have our asset in inventory. If we open this up, we have a description, name, stack, and icon. Close this down. If we try to go to miscellaneous inventory object and try to select our abstract parent, we can't actually select it like we can with our meta classes. We can view it because we're in the tree view, but if we were in the list view, I don't think this would show up. But we can definitely select its children. And yeah, that's basically it. So how do we register our own bit? Let's go back to our module code here, and let's create a e-asset type categories type, and we want to not set that equal to anything just yet, just make it a well, empty. Okay, we're going to set this here. We need to actually get the module here, so let's go to iAsset tools, and this is going to be a reference to the asset tool module, and we need to register an advanced asset category using the name inventory as the key and the module display name here, which is going to be a localized text with inventory asset and inventory here. Okay, now if we pass in this category here into the constructor of our asset type actions, we should now see that pop up in our code. I'm just going to leave this here just so you guys can make heads and tails of it, and just make sure that you got the code down. You may have to include iAsset tools here as well at the top. And yeah, if we rerun this now, let's actually create default constructor for that. The asset categories, and let's just set that equal to none for the time being. Okay, so let's open back up. Let's go to our content drawer and right click, and we should now have our inventory asset category here with that inventory object. If we go to miscellaneous, we should no longer see it here. So let's create our new inventory object, and there we are. Simple. Now, this is probably a lot easier and simpler than a lot of you guys were expecting, if we're being honest. I mean, when I first learned how to do this, I was kind of surprised at just how simple it was to do, but hard to research, I would say. And there's definitely a lot more resources out there now than compared to when I was first doing this, and I will leave them down below, some of the resources that I found recently. Yeah, thank you guys very much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next episode, and thank you again for watching.